Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So this is My Wild Adventures and I am back on YouTube doing one of my favourite things to do. I'm reviewing a bike. So here I am out on a really nice winter's morning. The weather's absolutely stunning. Got loads of sunshine and it's actually really warm. I'm actually really too overdressed, to be honest. I thought it was cold. I'm just thrashing the mountain bike around some trails just to give it a nice little rugged review. But I've got to be really careful because my GoPro mount for the handlebars has failed, so I'm now holding the GoPro with my hand just to show you the sort of riding position. So as you can see, it's a nice, comfortable, relaxed riding position. Handlebars are really wide, probably a bit too wide for me, to be honest. It's actually hitting my hands to hold on to the ends of the bars, but I'm used to riding a road bike, so I might get used to that. But it's a little bit awkward getting it through gates, getting it in the house and into the cupboard and stuff. So I probably will put some narrower handlebars on it at some point, because yeah, they're just too wide. But I think it's been designed like that so you have more control off-road. It's a proper off-road bike. There's nothing about this bike that says ride it on the flat, on the pavement. It's just not set up for that at all. But the handlebars they actually do provide some stability, and they do make you feel a little bit safer when you're on the road, to be honest, because they're so wide. If you just have a look there, you know, they're quite big in diameter. And another thing is the tyres are really chunky, really sort of thick tyres, and they feel monstrous off-road, and even on the road they roll really well for a mountain bike. And you know, they're quite slow, obviously, because the really thick tyres. So there's nothing about this bike at all that says that it's to be ridden on the roads, but it doesn't do too bad on the roads. However, if I was going to do a long road ride, I probably wouldn't use this bike. I'd probably use a road bike or a cyclocross bike. But you know, proper decent off-road, and really sort of enjoyable to ride. And the nice thing about it is, because it was quite cheap, I'm not overly bothered about thrashing it a bit, you know, so going over stuff I might not ride over normally, or thrashing it through trails and whatnot, I'm not really that bothered, because it wasn't overly expensive. But it is still a nice looking bike though, so well worth investing in one if you're looking for a budget mountain bike. So this is the Giant Talon 4. This is a low budget mountain bike that I recently purchased just to go out and have some fun on, and because I didn't own a mountain bike, and you must own every type of bike in existence if you're into your cycling. So this video is just a short, sort of quick overview of the bike and my experiences so far, what it's like to ride, and how it is on the road or off-road, etc, etc. I've not ridden much in the mountains itself just yet. I have plans to go up into Wales and do some mountain biking on it eventually, but at the moment I have taken it off-road just in a local area, just on some trails and on the roads and sort of grass and stuff like that. So I've got some off-road experience with it, but I haven't yet taken it into the mountains and done any significant mountain biking on it. So I paid £500 for this bike. This was a reduced price. I think it was originally 650 or something around that price, 680. I got it on sale for £500, and I did get it through Cycle Scheme, so I think I've paid something like £340 for it through the Cycle Scheme at work. At the moment you can get it for around about £400, I think, which is a really good value. I don't know if that's a Black Friday deal or whether that's just a sale price at the moment, but it is a very good value bike. So let's get into the details then and talk about how good it is to ride, how good it is to use, all the specs and all that type of stuff. As you can see, I'm leaning the bike here against a big pile of dirt in a farmer's field. Thought it'd be quite nice rather than against the fence, just for a change. Probably not the greatest. I'll probably have to clean it rigorously when I get in now, but it does look pretty cool standing there against the pile of mud in the farmer's field. However, let's go through the specs of this very nice looking mountain bike. So as you can see, initially it's a very nice looking thing. It's really well made, really well designed. The frame's quite nice, all aluminium of course. There's nothing fancy about it. There's no carbon in there or anything like that. But it's a really well made bike. When I got it out the box, I ordered it from Treads. I was actually quite impressed with the actual quality. Now obviously it is a Giant mountain bike, so they are a very reputable mountain bike brand. But for the price of the bike, I was quite surprised how nice it is and how sort of well made the frame is and stuff like that. You can see the welds on it obviously, but it is a cheap bike. But they're not overly bad or noticeable. And it's just a really well made frame. And I'm quite liking it. I like the way it looks. It does look a bit more expensive than what it was. What I initially didn't like about it was the fact that it is one of those newer sort of style mountain bikes. As you can see, it looks like a downhill mountain bike really, rather than a traditional, hardtail mountain bike, which I absolutely love. So I used to have a Kona Cooler, and I had like the classic sort of hardtail 90s mountain bike look, and that was a fantastic bike. But this one, I went for it because of the price really as well, and the specs you get for the price. But I've got used to the look of it now, and I'm not bothered. It's pretty good. It's nice to ride. It just is a little bit different. It's much more upright. You've got much more sort of comfort on it, I guess. It's very comfortable, and it is a very big bike as well. So there's that to bear in mind if you are going through gates and getting in your house and all that stuff. So the handlebars are quite wide on it, which I'm probably going to change because I'll show you them in a minute, but they are very, very wide. But the frame and the build of the bike is really decent. I'm quite impressed. Okay, just looking at the wheels. The wheels are Giant's own brand. They are Giant Etro wheels, and they're quite nice. Just sort of bog standard mountain bike wheels. There's nothing overly special about them, but they do roll quite nicely, and they're quite well made, and they look the part as well. I love the black rim, and the good thing about it is there's disc brakes on this bike, so that black rim will stay black because the rim brakes won't destroy the paint on it. The tyres themselves are absolutely huge. Really thick tyres. Now I went for the large, as you can see, the large frame, which is 27.5. There we go, and it fits me. I'm 5'10", and I don't have the longest legs, but it's a good fit, so that's a good size for me. And the wheels are 27.5 as well, as you can see there, so 27.5 inch wheels, and they're pretty decent. And the tyres take some getting used to because they're really thick, so they roll quite slowly because there's quite a lot of it. As you can see in this video here, there's the tyres being rode down a tarmac path. But I'm getting used to them, and I kind of like them. It's different to a road bike because on a road bike you've got extremely narrow tyres. Even on some cyclocross bikes the tyres are quite narrow, but on these you've got like a really thick tyre profile, so you can pretty much ride over anything you want, and they feel like they're going to hold you up. So I'm kind of getting used to them, and I'm kind of liking them now. So yeah, I'm enjoying the tyres, and the wheels are pretty good, but obviously just not absolutely incredible. But I've not noticed any. They're just heavy, that's all. The bike itself, it's quite a heavy bike. It's not going to be light at that price. It's also a mountain bike, so they're naturally going to be heavier because they've got thicker wheels, thicker tyres, and just more sort of, you need more weight because you need more stability. So it's going to be heavier anyway, but it is quite a heavy bike, I must say. It's difficult to lift, it's difficult to get in the cupboard. I keep it under the stairs, in the cupboard under the stairs. But yeah, just expect that. So let's talk about the suspension. So it's a hardtail mountain bike. There's no rear suspension whatsoever. I don't really need rear suspension. I don't want it either. The front forks are SR Suntour, the XCE model. I don't know much about Suntour, but I know they're all right. They're not the going to be the best forks, but they are quite rigid. Actually, I'm trying to push down with one hand there, and it's not moving. The only way you can get them to push down is when you push down with both arms when you're on the bike. So they are quite rigid for forks, and they do the job. But you can feel when you lean on the handlebars, there's a lot of bounce in them. But that's suspension for you, really, isn't it? They're doing the job. But when you're just sat in an upright position, they do their job. They're not incredible, but they do reduce a lot of the vibration when you're off-road. So yeah, I'm not, you know, a massively experienced user of suspension, but considering they're doing the job, I don't think they're bad at all, for a budget mountain bike anyway. One disappointing thing about the forks is that they don't lock out, which is annoying, because if you're riding on the flats, and sometimes I do like to just ride on the flat and do like a concrete bike ride, or, you know, or whatever, just a bike path type thing, you're using up energy that you don't need to, because you don't need the suspension. So it would have been nice if they'd put just a simple mechanism where the forks lock out so that they don't bounce around when you're on the flat. Not a massive deal, but it would have been nice. Okay, moving on to the gear system now, the group set. Okay, so we've got an 8-speed group set, and as you can see on the front, it's quite a small front ring, and there's two of them. So the very front ring looks more like a 34, and the little tiny ring, I don't know what that is, but it looks more like a rear cassette ring, but it's very small front rings. It's Shimano Tourney, which is the low budget Shimano group set. It's not bad at all. I mean, I've not really noticed anything I don't like about it. Obviously it's heavy, it's not going to be light at all. It's going to be made of cheap sort of aluminium components and whatnot, but I've not noticed it, you know, shifting slowly or anything like that. It seems to be working quite well. It doesn't shift like my nice Jura Ace does on my road bike, but it does shift perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't say there's any difference between that and, you know, Shimano Sora or whatever. Not bad at all. I mean, Shimano gear systems, even the cheap ones these days, are pretty good. I haven't noticed anything wrong with the gearing at all. The rear cassette looks almost the same size as the front rings. Okay, so the group set, or the gears on the bike, they're not designed for going fast. They're quite low gears. So when you go downhill on the bike, which I've done quite a bit of, coming out of our town is downhill for about 3 miles, which is always a slog when you're going back up the hill to get home every single ride. Anyway, you try and pedal when you're coming downhill, and it's only a 4% gradient, 3% gradient, and you can't pedal. So there's no big gears on it, but that's because it's purely designed for either off-road riding or just tootling around town as a sort of just a generic mountain bike. But no complaints really, because I don't want to go on a mountain bike ride and be absolutely blasting it all the time. I've got my road bikes for that, that's what they're for. But it might be nice for the front ring to be just a little bit bigger. But I might change my mind when I go mountain biking with it, and I might take it to some trails around North Wales. I'll probably disagree with myself and say you don't need a front ring on it that's any bigger than what it is. So yeah. Okay, moving on to the handlebars. So as I mentioned, the handlebars that come with it, as you can see, and you can see on the footage here. So yeah, they are quite wide. I don't know if it's because I need to get used to that. I'm used to riding road bikes and sort of older hardtail mountain bikes. They are really, really wide. I don't know how well you can see on the video, but if I just go to the saddle area and show you the width there from the, you can kind of see how kind of wide they are. They're too wide, I think. It's a pain in the butt when you're trying to get through gates with them and you're trying to get it in and out of the house or wherever you store it. They're too wide, and I'm probably going to put, you know, at least a third off the width of them. But I'm just not used to that, so that's probably just me. I'm used to riding road bikes, which obviously got narrow handlebars on, so it's probably that, and I'm just not used to the riding position. The shifters are obviously quite cheap things. They're not bad. They work, but they look cheap and they feel a little bit cheap as well. So you can see them there, and on the left there's the other shifter as well. Okay, so they're not bad at all, but they feel like if you knocked them or you had a accidental, you know, fall off the bike or you hit it with something, they feel like they break, but they might not. They're just made of cheapish plastic, but that's what you'd expect on a bike at this level for 500 quid. The stem's very short as well for a relaxed riding position Okay, so you are very, very much sat upright when you're on this bike. The saddle's very comfortable. It's one of Giant's own saddles. So, quite like it. It's really comfortable, no complaints. Nothing much to say about that, except it's a nice saddle and it's comfortable and it does its job. Okay, the pedals themselves that came with the bike, they are just your bog standard sort of flat mountain bike pedals. They're not made for, you know, clipping into or anything like that. Probably change them at some point to SBDs so I can use my mountain bike shoes, but these, they're alright. I can't really say much about them. I don't like them. I don't like that type of pedal, so it wouldn't be fair for me to comment on them, but these are the pedals that come with it. They're the type of pedals that if your foot slides off and your shin hits, you're going to be in a lot of pain. So they're coming off as soon as possible. And just coming around to the other side of the bike so I can show you the disc brakes. Okay, so this bike comes with disc brakes, which is very nice. I've never had disc brakes before. I've always opted for rim brake. These are obviously a cheaper, low budget disc brake, and you can see the front disc brake there, which is rather nice. And the good thing about having disc brakes is that the rims are going to be protected from the rim brakes, so they're going to stay black, the wheels, which is really nice. I like black wheels a lot, but I've got black wheels on my road bike with the deep rims, and because I opted for rim brakes, all the blacks come off the surface now, so they look don't look as good. So if they'd gone for disc brakes on the road bike, which was an option, they would have remained black. Okay, yeah, so the disc brakes, they're okay. They're quite sharp at the moment. I've only done about 50 miles on the bike so far, but they're still quite sharp. They're quite good. Not amazing compared to the Jura Race brakes I've got on the road bike, which are rim brakes as well. They're nothing special, but they work quite well. They do squeak when it's wet, but that's because they're disc brakes. Am I wrong there? Can you put that in the comments? Do all disc brakes squeak in the wet? I've not had disc brakes before, but I imagine because they're wet, that's why they're squeaking. But they work and they're good enough for the bike that they come on. So no complaints about the disc brakes, but they are a bit of a cheaper brake. Well, there's nothing wrong with them. They are quite sharp. You know, on my cyclocross bike, the Kona Jake that I've got, the brakes on that are absolutely diabolical, and they actually feel dangerous. So I'm probably going to have to, if I don't sell that bike, I'm probably going to have to change the brakes on that. But these do feel quite strong for now. I don't know what they'll be like after a lot of use, but I imagine if I look after it, they'll stay the same. So quite impressive what you get with the bike for the price that I've paid. You know, I've effectively paid about 340 quid because I've done cycle to work scheme. If you don't know what that is, then it's a really good scheme you can get through work, where you get a bike and you put it as monthly payments through your salary, and you then don't pay tax on the bike. So I'll commute to work on it a little bit, so reducing the carbon footprint. Yes. Okay, so the other nice thing, which is kind of probably coming up to a final point now, is the cabling system. So on a cheaper bike, you'd expect the cabling to be sort of just dangling down the side and clipped in, but actually the cabling, apart from the front where the brakes and gear levers are, and coming down to the disc brake, the cabling does go through the frame. So that's quite nice, because cheaper bikes don't often do that. So you can see it just pops out the frame at the bottom there, and it goes right along the back to the disc brake and the rear mech, or rear derailleur if you like, and the front derailleur. So that's quite nice. I wasn't expecting that. It's pretty cool that they come out at the end of the frames and they go in and they're built into the frame. But I think that's probably standard for most bikes now. But I didn't really expect it on a cheaper bike like this. And when I say cheaper bike, and I suppose £500 or even £650, which is what it was originally was, that's not exactly cheap. So it is a pretty good bike, you know, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it whatsoever. But it is effectively a budget mountain bike these days. You don't tend to get bikes for that much money these days. So yeah, still budget, but still quite good. Okay, just some final points to make then. So the riding position's really relaxed and comfortable. The reach to the handlebars is quite short. I don't know, maybe I should have bought a longer stem for it or something like that if I wanted a longer reach, but I am actually happy with it because I bought it just for some generic easy riding, so I'm not constantly riding on my road bike hard all the time. So I just bought it as a relaxed bike, so I just pop out and have a nice little, you know, social ride if you like. So, but the riding position is really comfortable. You're sat upright, your arms are quite wide, and the reach to the handlebars is quite short because of the short stem and presumably the relaxed riding position. Riding the bike off-road is quite impressive. Obviously, it's it's quite heavy, so hills are a problem on it. So they've got like a short 5% gradient here. Let's see how well it does. I'm going to try and do an effort. Here we go. Because I'm on concrete, I just want my road bike. So you can I can feel the suspension bouncing everywhere. So that's taking up a lot of energy. So it's not just the weight of the bike. It's also the suspension when you're sort of leaning on your handlebars, zapping energy out of your system as you're going up a hill. You've got to try and avoid pushing down the handlebars and stand up. Oh. No, it doesn't climb well when you're standing up because you're bouncing all over the suspension. So I guess an obvious point. It doesn't climb well like a road bike, but nobody expected that. But you can still pick it up with one hand and get it over gates and stuff like that. So it's not super heavy. It's impressive, but there is a bit of weight to it. So as soon as you go up a little hill, you'll notice straight away. It does ride well off-road. I've taken it down hills off-road. I've taken it through trails. I've gone on muddy trails, gravel trails, and just generic sort of off-road trails, grass and all that type of stuff. And it performs well everywhere, to be honest. It's not the most exciting riding experience because it's quite a budget bike, but going off-road with it, you can, you know, trash it a little bit because it's a cheaper bike, and it responds quite well. You know, it as you can see here. So when you put a bit of power down, even on concrete, you can get up to speed. One thing I have noticed is it's not bad at accelerating. See that it's got front forks and front suspension, and it's a big heavy mountain bike. You can, it doesn't have the highest gears on it, but you can really, you know, put your foot down on it and go quite fast, quite quickly. Quite like it. Look at this, so I'm up to speed here, 22 miles an hour. So actually it's not the slowest of bikes. You can get up to speed, but it doesn't have the highest gears on it, so you do have to use a higher cadence to get up to speed. Yeah, so I mean, on the road as well, it rides pretty well. So you just bobbing along on a cycle path, or you on the road to work or whatever. It's quite a comfortable bike, but you're not going to get anywhere fast on it. You can accelerate up to a nice speed, but maintaining it will be absolutely knackering. It is not meant to be ridden fast, in my opinion. It's meant to be used for just a bobbing around the town bike, or, you know, some off-roading. As I said, I haven't taken it to any proper mountain bike trails yet. I will do that and do a secondary video when I've taken it to somewhere that's a bit more substantial to give it a proper thorough test. But I do imagine it'll be quite fine because it's got low enough gears on it to get up any hills, and when you're coming down a hill on it, it works quite well. It's comfortable, and the forks work really well, and the brakes are okay. So I don't see any problem with it being off-road. However, I have not put it to the test, so that will be another video. So I would highly recommend getting this bike. I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving coming out on it, especially over the winter when it's muddy. I love riding in mud, and I love going down muddy trails, and all the excitement of slipping and sliding on the trail and trying to get through and navigate some muddy bits. Loving it. Really advise you getting this bike if you're looking for something that's a bit more budget. It rides well. You can put power down in it, or you can just ride it easily and bob around town on a cycle path. It's comfortable in any scenario I've put it through. It's comfortable on the road, it's comfortable off-road, it's comfortable anywhere. It's just not fast. So if you're looking for something that's quite fast, it's not the right bike. But that's unfair to say because it is a mountain bike, so it's not designed for absolute maximum speed, because it's not aerodynamic and it's not meant to be going as fast as a road bike. So it's probably quite decent off-road. It gets through trails okay, it gets up hills okay, and it comes down hills okay, and I've not had any faults with it whatsoever yet. Highly recommend it, and you should get one if you're looking for something that's a little bit budget but also quite good, quite well made and reliable. Thanks for tuning in to my review of the Giant Talon 4, a really exciting little budget mountain bike that I've recently purchased just to do some bopping around the local trails and possibly eventually take it on a mountain bike ride. I'm loving it at the moment, and I hope you have enjoyed the video and you found it useful. If I've missed anything or there are any questions you've got for me, feel free to put them in the comments below and I will answer them. I always reply to my comments because I do appreciate people watching and commenting and liking the video. So thank you so much. Subscribe to the channel for more content, and thanks for tuning in. And off I go riding home. Whoa! Oh, God! Tell you what, it's difficult riding on this bloody farmer's field. Just checking I haven't left that in. And off I go riding home through a farmer's field. There we go. Hope the farmers don't block me in because of all this protesting. Sneaky comment. I'll see you on the next one. I'm on the concrete now. Thanks for tuning in.